I'm Stephen Downey, and you are very welcome to episode 33 of the Mindful Living Guide, a podcast that I set up to try and bring mindfulness into our everyday life through conversation. And today is no exception. I have a great guest on for you. I'm talking to Jon Kearney of the That's Awesome Facebook page. If you haven't followed already, please hop on it. Jon is a mental health advocate and just an all-round awesome person to chat to. This episode touches on a lot of things, from Jon's love of sea swimming, how to alleviate those stressful times, Jon's own experience of working on the front lines, and journaling, gratitude, just trying to find light at the end of the tunnel, and in a hope that people will be able to find happiness and true joy in their values without hitting rock bottom. Just being able to be inspired to find that place in their life where they are just truly happy and truly awesome. We also touch on mindfulness, of course, and that question I ask every single guest, which I just love the answer to because it's so varied. What does mindful living mean to you? So sit back and enjoy this week's episode of the Mindful Living Guide. So this week on the Mindful Living Guide, I've got a fantastic guest again. This guy, I met him a few years ago, and he just impressed me on how open he is and honest, just about mental health and just about getting talking. So one of my big passions about this podcast is to try and get more men to talk about mental health. So I'm delighted to be able to have Jon Kearney from That's Awesome on this week. If I describe Jon, I'd say he is the chief encourager at That's Awesome. And it's a very popular page on Facebook, and where he just encourages people just to live their best life and just be grateful for everything around them. So Jon, you are so welcome to the Mindful Living Guide.
Stephen, how are you? Thanks so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Like I said, I always want to have open discussions, and like we say, just break down those barriers so people can know that it's okay to chat and okay to talk. So if you just start about like you've got this great page, That's Awesome, and it's going a few years. And could you talk about your own journey and like where how you got to the stage where you're so open and honest about your own mental health and talking about people's mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose, yeah, you hit the nail most of the head there. You did. As regards the page is about getting people talking about mental health, because ultimately back in the past, especially with men, there's been this awful stigma attached to mental health where people had been referred to as maybe, unstable or mental or imbalanced, or, and then it gets shunned away and people don't talk about it. But, we're slowly heading towards a better place. That stigma has been broken down. That shell is being cracked at us. I'm 35. I've worked for the best part of 20 years as a healthcare professional in a busy community pharmacy. So you can imagine in the best part of 20 years, the stories and the patients and clients that you meet coming through the doors of a pharmacy. It's incredible. I know awesome is a very American word, but I suppose the main reason why I chose it is because it's a very big word. Yeah. We can say you're feeling good, you're feeling great, you're feeling grand, but when somebody describes something as awesome, you generally think of this big, fireworks display of a feeling. That's primarily why I chose the name, or why I use the word so much. I suppose some of the stories I've heard down through the years and some of the clients that I've met has really opened my eyes into mental health and into wanting to be doing more to support mental health.
And it's fantastic. I was not just saying to you before we on, but like some of the videos that you share, and there was one particular one actually I was just looking at from today, and you were just talking about perspective and the difference that makes in people's lives. Could you tell us a bit just about the background on that? And I know you're reading a book at the moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I'm very okay. So I'm good with music in the sense that I listen to a lot of music, and I think we all listen to music in some regards. But The Wanted, I think, is the band's name. And I say I think because I'm not sure. I'm sure I know some of the stuff, but Tom Parker is the author of the book, and basically it's his story of him living his. He describes it as his best life, and then one day he's diagnosed with an incurable cancer, and his whole life just completely flips around on its ass. And I think what I'm enjoying about reading from the book is that it gives me a point of reference then to remind people that this could be you, and not to take the tone of the conversation down, but really it could be. I'll use me as an example. Like, I could, touch wood, I don't, get some sort of a terminal diagnosis at some point in my life, and you're told, you've got a couple of weeks or a couple of months to live, and that really changes your perspective on life. But the angle that I want to come at it with it for mental health, especially on my page, is if I can get people thinking about their own perspective now, about perhaps changing something in their life, so as that it encourages them to start to live maybe a slightly better life, or maybe the best version of their own life. Okay, if you get some sort of horrible diagnosis, you're still going to feel really down, is even too small of a word. But if you've been living your best life up to that point, the likelihood is that your regrets are going to be minimal and your boots are going to be fairly full. And that's what I'd love for more fellas. I see too many fellas, and women, but I do see many fellas that, by looking at them and talking to them, that there's a lot going on in their life, or there's not enough of something going on in their life. And it's easy to maybe make those changes in our life. Maybe we've gone through some stuff, and you kind of know what not to do. And ultimately, I want to kind of be able to give people that information to help guide them back onto the path they need to be on, to encourage their own mental health to be more stable.
And it's amazing, like that you touched on there, and past guests have touched on it as well, about that. Like, it's not until like something happens in your life that you change that perspective. And it's many people that they could be living in autopilot constantly, and it's not until something like what happened to Tom Parker there, the diagnosis, and it makes them actually stop and say, hey, I've only got a certain amount of time left. What do I want to do with that time? And it's not about being real negative about life, but it's about just appreciating life, isn't it? It's just about just being grateful for what we have.
Yeah, big time. I mean, appreciation and gratitude is something that I live every single day by. Like, and it's not that I don't have, nice things as such, but what I'm grateful for is the feelings that I get every day in my life, as opposed to the things that I have. And obviously, yeah, we need, you gotta get a job, you gotta get money and pay bills. You have to do them things. But ultimately, if you're doing something that you love, all of the other things that you don't have become invisible. I was talking with Mark Haslam a couple of months back, and, to be coming from a place of gratitude where you subconsciously start to be thankful for everything you feel, puts you into such a magical place. And we're not talking about living in la la land. We're talking about genuinely feeling good, or feeling awesome. And that's why, that's what you want to get people doing.
And it's also about like knowing what makes you happy. Like, there's lots of people out there, and they actually don't know what makes them happy, because they're not on the outlook for all that gratitude. And just for people listening, that wasn't John, that was his dog.
It's coming into fireworks season. I'm going to try and keep her quiet.
Oh, stop. It's gas, because I record this out in the shed, and just literally before we came on, I heard a massive explosion above me from fireworks. Yeah. I'm saying, geez, I hope they're quiet now. But listen, this is life, This is what I like about an organic conversation.
I done a live the other night from the kitchen table here, and somebody actually pointed out that it was quite funny because I didn't give a shit, and in the background the washing machine was going. I was like, you know what, that's just life. Everyone has a washing machine, and everyone has dirty clothes they need to wash. So
this is it. Like, it's
timing wasn't on my side that day, but you look, hey.
Just when we're talking about things that make us happy, I know you're a big fan of sea swimming.
Yeah,
and I see you doing a lot. Is that something that you've done lately, or is that something that you've been into for a while?
Yeah, so I don't know. Look, I think, like us all, well, like anybody certainly that has swam for a long time, I've been swimming since I can remember, and I've always been into outdoorsy kind of sports. But I think 2019 probably was the big beginning of it, because COVID-19 hit hard, lockdown hit hard, people's sporting events and going to the cinema and going for a meal and going for a pint and going for all the things that you do to kind of decompress or whatever was none and void at the time. So we got back into the idea of sea swimming. We got back into going for proper walks in the park, gathering acorns. We went and bought a paddleboard, and we got back doing lots of outdoorsy stuff as a family, which in one sense was a blessing. It was unfortunate that we had to have something so drastic that made us get back to that. But I thought for a while it was really nice that people were getting back involved with getting some fresh air and getting some exercise. And it's good for your mental health. I mean, it's been proven time and time over that fresh air and exercise suppresses the black dog. And that is just a fact across the board. You might take your time, but yeah, for me, sea swimming is my I refer to it as the G spot on another it's my happy zone. I work in a busy, stressful, mentally fatiguing environment that I love.
Yeah.
But like anything, if you do too much of something and not enough of something else, your balance becomes completely off. So I need something to keep me balanced.
I was literally going to say, it seems like you have the right balance to it, though, because it's like, obviously you've been on the front line all the way through all of COVID as well, and but it seems that you have a good way of balancing. Like if you do have a really tough day, how do you balance that for yourself?
Yeah, now I can answer it quite easy, but before I would have struggled with that. So maybe we'll go back a couple of years and I'll come up to an answer. So back around 2016/2017, thereabouts, I was finding that I was coming home from work very much not the same person I was going out to work. I was getting in, I was tired, I was lethargic, I was sitting up most of the night, not really sleeping very well. And, I was starting to just become not me. And that was always the expression I was using. It just wasn't me. So this went on for a couple of weeks, and, I had buddies kind of saying to me, is everything all right at home? Is everything, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. I just don't feel myself. And I was taking too much on. I was taking far too much on. And I kept saying things like, I'll do that. I'll get that done. Sure, like, look, that's life. I'll be grand. Stuff that we all say, 10 a penny, every day of the week. Except for people that say it 10 a penny, they also do something to help alleviate some of that pressure and stress. I wasn't. I was like a gas boiler with the valves all seized up. Yeah, absolutely. It was an explosion waiting to happen. So probably about 6 months in, then I ended up going to the doctor, and I was talking to him about it, and I was saying, look, come here, look, you know where I'm at, you know what I do. I'm not feeling great, X, Y, and Z. And we talked about going and doing some counseling, and we talked about taking some SSRI medication, which is a serotonin reuptake, kind of mild anti-anxiety, antidepressant drug, which works on sort of lowering the volume in your head. So you don't have too much kind of clatter going on, or sometimes I'd refer to it as letting the hamster off the wheel for a break. That's kind of the way I'd use the example. And so I did. I went on those for a while, and I found they were helping in combination with counseling and in combination with exercise. I was lucky, and I was able to kind of taper off the medication. I was able to stay at the counseling, and I was able to stay with the exercise. A couple of more months in, we're at about maybe late 2018, early 2019, started 2019, I'd say. I was able to taper out of the counseling, and I was able to keep going with the exercise. I was swimming 2-3 times a week. I was running. I was doing 5-10K runs for charity. I was really keeping busy, and I was really starting to feel like me again. So the realization came when I was journaling one night, and I was looking at the pattern that I had been going down, and it was basically work, not sleeping, work, not, and that this just went on for months. And then when everything else was added into the equation, it was almost like a seesaw. That was the image that I had in my head, Stephen. It was literally a seesaw, and it was, as work went up, fun went down.
Right.
That was it. Energy and fun went down.
Which is unusual, because you're passionate about your job as well. You love your job.
Yeah, this is the thing, and I kept throwing myself back into work, because I kept saying, I love this. This is something I've been doing for years. This is something I'm good at. This, like, what's going on here? So I kept kind of digging more and more and more into work and making sure that my work was perfect, impeccable. Timekeeping was tops. You know, at the end of every day, everything was done. Sure, all I was doing was emptying the tank.
Yeah.
I had nothing left to give until something gave. And it did. It absolutely gave. Until I started taking a step back. And that was what I found hardest, because I had been doing something so robotically wrong for so long that I had to now unlearn what I had been doing incorrectly for so long. Which is why now, I suppose it brings me back to answering the first question. It brings me back now that I adopt this attitude that when I clock on to work, I clock off from home life.
Right.
And then when I clock off from work, I clock on to home life. And that's the work that I do now. So I work my ass off, like you, between 9 and 6, and then I down tools.
Yeah.
And then I clock on to something else, and I give that my all. And then I down tools. And that's the way I work my life at the moment. That's how my life gets balanced. So I clock on to different things throughout the day that I need to, and I clock off from things. And that can be a physical thing, or it can be a mental thing, or it can be, you know, going and sitting in the car for 10 minutes, or going and sitting in the staff room for half an hour, whatever. Everyone will have a different clock on, clock off system. But it was the sweet spot. It was the honey for the complete transformation. Like,
brilliant. It seems like you've one thing I'm seeing from this is that you've got great awareness, that it seems like now you can recognize when that seesaw, as you put it, is going one way. And it's, I think, do you think where in your journey do you think you found that awareness and that ability to know when you need to shift the balance?
It's a funny one. It is most of the time it's in work, but you get a feeling. You get a feeling. I think because I've gone through what I've gone through, I've learned a couple of internal feelings that perhaps I never was able to access before. So it's a little bit hard to put into words, but I generally would know when I'm in work if I get that kind of that hot feeling coming up in my tummy, where you kind of go, oh, Jesus, I'm busy today. I'm mixing up things I did, and I might just feel a bit scattered.
Yes.
Whereas most days you feel somewhat together. It'd be a bit like if you haven't had your morning coffee or something like that. Something's just missing from the equation. And I know then that I need to just go and take 5.
Brilliant. So
for me, taking 5 is enough just to recalibrate myself, because I now know I'm quite aware of what I'm looking out for not to be doing.
Yeah, and it's like it's just a matter of kind of grounding yourself again, and kind of coming back to what's important right now. And rather than
completely. No, it is like, and I with the risk of sounding like cocky or big-headed, what I'd love to be able to do is download some of the information from my head and then upload it to somebody else. That's what I want. That's what the desire from doing mental health podcasts and mental health live talks and posting things like that. That's the only way I can access doing that for people, because especially fellas, we're not great at kind of ringing a buddy going, I'm feeling a bit down, can I have a chat with you? Like, you don't have to use them words, but generally speaking, lads aren't great at that. And I found with using social media, as much as it has its downsides, if you just focus on, like anything, if you focus on its positives, you'll only see its positives. You tend to get a particular following of people that might not like anything and they might not comment on anything, but they're looking at it. And then they say to you a couple of weeks down the line, oh, I was listening to something you said and it resonated with me. But, you know, I'm quite private and I didn't want to get involved with it, but I just want you to know it has helped me. And then I go, I won't say it. Yes. That's the desire.
That's the gold. You know, that's I love that as well. In like, which is, I remember there was for years, like I work in IT, and there was one particular person who I happened to work in a few different companies, but I always had this person on a pedestal. Like, he was just, he knew his stuff, and he was just had an amazing presence. And just out of nowhere once, he contacted me to say that he had been struggling in certain parts, and that just listening to some of the stuff I shared really made a difference. And it's like exactly what you said. Like, it's that just like, even like from this conversation, just to let someone know that it's okay to talk. It's like, say, right, and I probably kind of put you on the spot here now, but for like, if there was someone listening right now who is struggling, wants to talk about saying they're going through issues at the moment, but doesn't know where to start, where do you think the best place to start is?
The best place to start is always the beginning. So we've all heard the cliches, it's okay not to be okay, and start at the beginning, and the truth will set you free, and all these kind of things. Okay, they aren't cliches that we use 10 a penny for no reason. They have very, very large and monumental values. I generally do my best to try keep it as simple as I can for people. If somebody is struggling with anything, the easiest way to deal with it for me is good old fashioned pen and paper. Get it down on pen and paper. You can put it in a book. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't even have to keep it. You can rip it up and burn it. You can do whatever, but it makes it real. When you write something down, when you write down, I'm not feeling well today and I don't know why, or I'm not feeling well today because inside my head feels like, bee is buzzing around me, or my skin is crawling, or whatever. When you write it down, it becomes real. And when it becomes real and you're willing to admit that it is real, it makes the next step, whatever that may be, just a little bit more achievable. For me, that's what worked anyway.
Yeah. So because you mentioned journaling earlier on, is journaling a big part of your life then?
Journaling is still a huge part of my life. I keep a large A4 journal in the car and a large A4 journal at home, and wow. I journal all the time. And if I could show you the journal, like it's, I think people think it's like, dear diary, today I saw my crush. It's, sometimes my journaling is pictures. Yeah. It might just be a smiley face and a question mark. And in my head, that reminds me of the moment that I was happy. And the question mark is, why was I happy? And then I remember why I'm happy, and then I'm grateful for that moment. Or I'll draw a couple of Z's across a page, and it's probably 5 o'clock, and I go, I'm drawing Z's on a page. It's 5 o'clock. Well, I'm getting tired. Am I tired because it's been busy? Am I tired because I haven't had proper lunch or day? I don't know. I find it helpful, and yeah, I like. It's good because you don't need to be fully literate. And maybe some people struggle with reading and writing, but we can all get some sort of emotion from our head with a pen and paper. It doesn't matter what medium you use. I don't know. It works for me.
You have a great way of describing it, because a lot of people like journaling. It has become a bit of a buzzword, but it's very hard for like people that don't do it to kind of realize it's literally just writing down what's in your head. And some people use prompts. Some people have like certain questions that they might ask each day. But even one thing is like just your gratitude, just writing down your gratitude each day, and just sharing what, like, no matter how small it is. And I know someone close to me that was struggling there a lot recently, and they changed totally by just writing down what was grateful each day. And because what happened then is that each day they're going out looking for, I have to tell him what I'm grateful for, so I have to look for something to be grateful for. And their whole, like we said at the start, the perspective changed. They're looking for the positive in the day.
It does, yeah. And it really works. It works. Like, you got to do, like, people talk about doing something for 21 days to make or break a habit. So if you were willing to invest, because you're only ever investing in yourself. So when you take an investment opportunity to improve your mental health, it's going to be you directly that benefits from it, plus the people in your immediate vicinity. But like, it's win-win, because if you invest in yourself and something positive changes, well, that's a win. If you invest in yourself and something doesn't change, you're not going to feel so down about it that something didn't change. You're going to find some moment of enlightenment to say, oh, hang on, something didn't change, but if I do something else, it might. And before you know it, you're on the road to some sort of a change. And gratitude is definitely one of those big things. You don't need to be kind of running around, positive Polly, thanking everybody for everything. But just to pause for a moment and to kind of go, do you know what? I got to tuck in my daughter last night and kiss her to bed and then come back downstairs and watch something on the telly and go to bed. That's a huge, huge thing that a lot of people don't have. And we get so conflicted with gratitude that we bring in, like, I need the new car, I need the fancy shoes, I need a new laptop, I need. And there's a lot of this I need stuff. And as soon as you don't have access to things that you really do need, you soon learn what you need and what you want are two very different things.
Absolutely. It's no, it's amazing that and geez, I've lost my whole train of thought there. But yeah, no, just like the stuff we take for granted, and it's not until, like you said, like you don't have it. It's actually, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Actually, just going back to like the conversation at the very, very start about we're talking about the guy from Wanted, and that his whole perspective had to change because he now realized what he had around him was important. And I remember actually a few years back, actually, I was at a seminar in Dublin, and the lead singer of Aslan was there. Why it was my brain gone? Why can't I think of his name? Blank. Christy Dignam. Jesus, why did I go blank there? Who's actually who's having a few struggles at the moment again, but he said something really, really powerful that day, and the whole place, he got a standing ovation. I was actually, I think, the only standing ovation the 2 days of the conference, but he said that all through his life, he felt that he was searching, he was looking for something, and it wasn't until he was in a hospital bed, he was suffering with cancer, and his grandson came in, and it turned out that he couldn't get to his grandson's communion, or he was really wanted to get there, but it made him realize that the only thing that was important right there and right that moment was actually all around him. And he's been chasing externally, and like you're talking about, like buying things and looking for the new car and all that, that sometimes what we actually really, really want and what really makes the difference for our life is actually around us all around already. And it's not till we get to the end of a journey sometimes we realize that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's unfortunate that it's a bit like we were talking about COVID, how we had to go through such a bad patch in order for to maybe find some kind of light at the end of the tunnel, where people became a lot more community driven. People start doing more things outside. It was a pity that we had to go through all the chaos to get to that. But with the likes of positive mental health forums and people speaking out about it now, the desire and the hope would be that, down the line, I don't know, we could be talking weeks for some people, months, years, I don't know, down the line, the people might not have to go through the negative stuff and maybe just start to appreciate the positive stuff without having to go through it. And that would be a lovely thing for a lot of people. That would be a lovely thing to witness, perhaps down the years, looking back on. That's something special now, that people can access the positive part of their brain and appreciate the things that make them feel fulfilled without having to hit rock bottom before they start building again.
That's it. It's like,
that would be nice.
It's like naturally, until something like that happens, our brain is like Teflon to anything good, and then anything positive or anything negative kind of just sticks.
It's like Velcro.
But it's like Velcro, yeah.
Yeah. I know. I heard that phrase during the week. I thought it was quite good. It stuck with me also.
Oh, stop. John, I always ask, I try to get kind of an angle on mindfulness and mindful living. I think you covered a lot of it already in what you're saying, but if you were to give someone some tips for just being more mindful in their life, what would you say?
I keep it short, will I?
No, just as long as you want.
No, I think the advice that I'd give people is the same advice that I give myself. That mindfulness, or the approach to mindfulness, or bringing mindfulness into your day, whatever way you kind of want to spin it, is when you're doing something, how does it make you feel? Okay, so regardless of what it is, if you were to just take a split second and ask yourself, whatever it is you're doing, how does it make you feel? Now, if the answer to that is what I'm doing makes me feel good, then what I always say is, if it feels good, keep doing it. if there's a question mark over what it is you're doing, it might just be that you're doing it the wrong way, or there's a better way to do it, or perhaps you no longer need serve whatever it is you're doing, and maybe take a step back, take a breath, get back at it again, and ask yourself that question again. If the answer has changed, then all you needed was a break. If the answer is different, then perhaps reassess what it is you're doing. But for me, mindfulness is very much, I bring it into my day. Whenever I'm doing something, I'm mindful of how I'm feeling while I'm doing it and how it makes me feel. Because ultimately, when we do something, we get a different sort of rush of endorphins or a different set of feelings doing the thing, whatever it may be, to what we have afterwards. So you get that kind of afterglow from certain things. So like you mentioned sea swimming, like for me, sea swimming is my balance, because when I'm in work, I'm indoors. I'm in a suit and tie. I'm dealing with people face to face. I'm doing a lot of talking. There's a lot of noise with computers and printers and phones, and it's all chaos. Then I get out to, say, the Vico Bats, and I strip off to a pair of shorts and I leap into the deep blue sea, and it's just me and the water and nature. So it's a complete polar opposite, and that's the balance that I see. But the mindfulness of that is that when I'm doing a swim or when I'm in the middle of a swim, I rarely do I think of anything, which is an unusual feeling, to be thinking of nothing. Even now, me and you, we're both thinking of something. Probably to do with the next question of the podcast or whatever's going on around us, but you're not thinking of nothing. And for me, when you hit the sweet spot, you're not thinking about it. And then afterwards, it kind of stays with you for a little bit longer. And that's when you know you're doing something right. That's when you know you're doing the right thing.
That's when your mind is just suddenly settled. It's and it's so hard for us to find that activity that just helps us just literally think of nothing. It's there's a famous picture of a man walking a dog, and there's like a bubble coming from the man, and he's got like, he can see like his tax returns, and he can see where he's going the next day and all this and what's for dinner and all that. And the bubble from the dog is literally just the image what's in front of them. It's just letting go, because we often are constantly, like I said, just thinking of the next thing, and what's coming next. It's
big time. You gotta be real at the same time. So we do have to think about tomorrow, and we do have to think about what's down the line. Of course, we have to make provisions and things, but like, we're talking about improving people's mental health. Everything has to be slowed right the way back down, and it has to be brought right back down to the present moment. It does it, like, that's where it starts. It starts in the present, because your past is real and you can't change your past, but it doesn't mean it needs to be the foundations of what your future is going to be either. But then tomorrow's not guaranteed. So what are you left with? You're left with today. So if we're mindful of the things we do today, and if we're grateful for the things that we have today, well, then that makes today a bit better. And then if you do that every day, today soon become last week, and it becomes a month away, and that's snowballs in a lovely positive mantra.
Oh, that is absolutely powerful stuff. I normally ask another question called but I think you've already answered it, actually. But one question, just because I ask every other guest, I have to say it. Like, I talk about mindful living, and it's kind of a spin on mindfulness and bringing it into your own life. But if I say mindful living to you, and sorry, what am I saying? If I say the term mindful living to you, what does it mean in your life, in your terms?
Mindful living. So look, everyone's, like you say, everyone's terminology or everyone's answer is going to be different, but maybe for me, mindful living is that I'm living the life that I want to live. Everything I do, I want to do. There's going to be some small variations in that, where we won't use the term people pleasing, because Nicola will slap the hands off us. Like, you do things for your partner, you do things for your kids, you do go and watch silly bands, you go and watch movies that you don't like, and you do that for other people. That's compromise. That's part of a hub and a network. But ultimately, mindful living for me is me living every moment of my life the way I want to live it, in a selfless way. That's probably the key, because I think people have got so far removed from being afraid to admit that they themselves want to do something for themselves. At the end of the day, Stephen, it's your life.
Yeah.
You know, like if you wake up in the morning, like I had a friend of mine she was like, I was going to go for a walk the other night, but my partner had said to me, why would you be going for a walk? And then she didn't go for the walk. Now, you could dissect that down and go, right, why does he care if she's going for a walk? Why did she want to go for a walk? None of that is irrelevant. In my eyes, if I decide I want to go for a walk, I'm going for a walk.
Yeah.
And that's just a really black and white, simple example of what I'm talking about. Like, why would you go swimming? Why would you go swimming in November in the freezing cold weather? I mean, are you out of your mind?
Didn't want to ask, but
there's a good chance that if I didn't go swimming, I'd probably be out of my mind. Everybody's thing is different. Everybody's mindfulness is different. Everybody's answer to that question is going to be different. And that's the beautiful thing about asking that question. Because
that's what I love about it, asking on each episode, because you hit the nail on the head. Every single person has a different interpretation, but I think it's so important, and like exactly what you've said, is that we bring it into our own life, how it works for us, and what works well.
Absolutely, because it's when you, I don't know whether you're religious or spiritual or whatever, but let's in a generic term, let's say you die and you are able to look back on your life, be it on your own looking back on your life or with some other entity. Are you going to look back and go, I'm raging I didn't do that? I should see that part of my life just there when I was 30. I should have done that there. And just see when I was 60 and I retired and I said I was going to start playing golf or I was going to go fishing and I didn't do it. And I, like, this isn't a dress rehearsal. This is the real deal. This is the show. This is the show that's you. What are you going to do? Do it. And if it doesn't work out, don't do it again. Yeah. But if it fucking does work out, brilliant.
Wow. It's like they say, the best time to do something or the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. You can reap the benefits of whatever decision-making process you go for, but you got to go at it. You got to decide to do it, and do it for you. Yeah. Do it for you. You can't be doing things for other people. You can be certainly doing things with other people, but not for them. They have their option to do stuff for them. Yeah,
it has to just do something for your own heart. Jon, I absolutely have loved chatting to you and just opening up that conversation and just hopefully breaking down barriers for somebody else to have their own conversations, whether that's in private or whether that's with just seeking help somewhere. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you
for anyone that doesn't know you, what's the best way for them to find your page?
So there's two links that I operate primarily from. So That's Awesome 2019 is the Instagram direct sort of link. But primarily I found that Facebook seems to still be the top goer. Cool. There's a very, very large following on Facebook. So That's Awesome. Just straight up, That's Awesome. Type it into the toolbar, and you'll see the logo. Click on and have a look and see.
What I'll do is I have a show notes page for every episode, so I'll stick on links to all that. So if anyone's looking at it, there'll be a link in this episode to the show notes, and that will point to Jon's page. And I'll probably put a few of his videos on it as well that you can listen to, because this man honestly he's breaking down barriers. And if you don't follow him, I really, really recommend that you look him up and follow him, because he's an absolute gent and he is the epitome of awesome. Jon, thank you for being on the show.
Stephen, thank you so much.
So there you have this week's episode. Thank you again for just giving up your time. It's something that we should never underestimate, is how important our time is. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode. If you feel inspired by it and you feel that someone else may benefit, please share the episode, send it on to your friends and family, and hopefully we can get more men talking about our own mental health, just like we did here. It's only through opening up conversation like this we give permission to do the same. So thank you as always. If you want to support the show, please just share. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the Mindful Living Guide.